I get it. When you're finally ready to upgrade the low-end rumble in your home theater, the last thing you want is to spend a few $100s on a sub that sounds great on paper but ends up just shaking the couch for a second before dying out. I was in that exact spot a few weeks ago, scrolling through endless subwoofer options while trying to picture how each would actually sit under my bookshelf speakers and whether the extra bass would really translate into that movernite punch I keep hearing about. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. What makes the KICKER 12-inch CVT thinwoofer bundle different is that you're not just buying a single sub, you get two 12-inch CVT units plus a 5-channel amplifier that's built to talk to them. That's a lot of hardware for a typical living room setup, so the first question is, does it make sense for you, or are you just adding more metal to the floor? Let's walk through the practical side of installing, using, and living with this package, and see where the real value lies. First off, the physical footprint. The thinwoofer label isn't marketing fluff. The cabinets are about a third thinner than a standard 12-inch box, which means they can slide into tight corners or even sit on a low shelf without looking like a garage door motor. In my own test space, I squeezed the pair side by side behind a mid-tower bookshelf, and the combined depth was barely enough to clear the rear vent. That's a huge win if you're living in an apartment or have a media console that's already packed with components. The downside is that the thinner enclosure sacrifices some internal air volume, which can affect how deep the bass feels at very low frequencies. You'll still hear a solid thump, but the subwoofer won't quite reach that earth-shaking rumble that a large, ported box can produce. The included 5-channel amplifier is where the system starts to feel cohesive. It's not a generic mono sub-amp, it gives you individual gain controls, crossover settings, and even LED accent colors that you can sync to your room lighting. Those LEDs are purely aesthetic, but they do double as a quick visual cue that the amp is still on and receiving a signal, handy if you ever need to troubleshoot without pulling out a phone and checking a display. The amp also features a precision system control mode that automatically levels the sub output based on the main speaker's volume, which is a nice safety net for people who worry about blowing their ears or rattling picture frames. In practice, I found the auto-level feature a little too eager. At lower movie volumes the subs would dip down faster than I expected, so I had to dial in the manual gain for a more consistent feel. Now, about power. KICKER markets these woofers as designed to work with serious amounts of power, and they do deliver. Each sub can handle upwards of 500 watts peak, and the AMP's RMS output comfortably sits in the 150-watt range per channel. If you're the type who watches a lot of action movies or likes to blast the bass in rock concerts at home, that headroom translates into tight, distortion-free lows even when the soundtrack hits a sudden explosion. However, if your primary use case is casual TV watching or streaming music at moderate levels, you might find the extra power is more than you need. The system will still sound good, but you'll be paying for capability you rarely tap into. One hidden trade-off that pops up after a few weeks of use is heat management. The amp runs warm, nothing alarming, but it does mean you should keep it ventilated and avoid stacking it under a closed TV stand. The woofers themselves stay relatively cool thanks to the thin profile design that includes a built-in venting system, but when you push the gain high for those deep bass moments, you'll notice a faint hum that can be traced back to the AMP's cooling fan. It's not a showstopper, just something to be aware of if you're a noise-sensitive listener. Who should actually buy this bundle? If you already own a decent set of front left and right speakers and you feel like the low end is the missing piece, these subs are a solid upgrade. They're especially good for people who have a bit of space to spare but can't accommodate a bulky, ported box. The dual sub configuration means you can place one in front of the listening position and another at the rear for a more enveloping surround bass effect, which is a big plus for immersive formats like Dolby Atmos. Home theater enthusiasts who enjoy tweaking settings will appreciate the granular control on the amp, and the LED accent can even match your gaming rig's RGB vibe if that matters to you. On the flip side, skip this if you're a budget-only shopper, or if you already have a dedicated subwoofer that's performing well. The price point of the whole package sits in the upper mid-range, and you're essentially paying for two woofers plus an amp you might already